Congress has reconvened but failed to elect Kevin McCarthy as Speaker after a now 8th failed vote. The normally procedural vote has dragged into its 3rd day as another vote begins. Joining me now live is Bondi Partners Managing Director and former Deputy Chief of Staff for Donald Trump, Ms Doyle. Emma, thank you so much for joining us. How would you describe the scenes that are playing out in Congress at the moment?
I think it's very chaotic here. It's not quite unprecedented, but it is the first time in 100 years that an election for Speaker has gone beyond the first ballot. And more importantly, I don't think there's a clear sense on either side of the stalemate where either side goes from here.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I mean, what are the possible outcomes? Does Kevin McCarthy just simply give up?
At this point, McCarthy's team is signaling that they're not ready to give up, and certainly the 201 Republicans who continue to vote for McCarthy for Speaker are encouraging him to stay in the fight. They see this faction of 20 or so Republicans who continue to oppose him as a group that's taking the rest of the caucus hostage. And there is a significant amount of encouragement from McCarthy to stay in and continue to try to gain ground. He has made several concessions behind the scenes, and there have been more encouraging talks going on off the floor today and in small group huddles around the Capitol.
And in regards to those fresh trade-offs with those far-right rebels who are blocking his attempt to become US House Speaker, what sort of deals do you think that the Republicans would be looking to negotiate on?
Well, one of the most important things the House has to do after electing a Speaker is vote on a rules package that actually determines how the House will be governed for the next 2 years. Those are the places where the real nitty-gritty rules come into play that McCarthy has ground to give on. So, for example, making it easier for conservatives to bring amendments to spending bills on the floor, giving them more key committee positions, including on the Rules Committee, that helps determine some of those amendments. It's things like that that are little procedural tweaks, but that mean a lot to conservatives. The only challenge is that this group really isn't particularly unified. There are four or so members who seem very personally opposed to Kevin McCarthy individually, and then about another 16 or so who have some procedural goals they may want to accomplish, but they do seem to keep moving those goalposts.
We know that Kevin McCarthy was Donald Trump's pick. What does this say now about Donald Trump, and does he not have that influence, perhaps, like he once did?
I think that's absolutely the case. I think that certainly when he was in office, an endorsement from Donald Trump, whether in a race like this or in a congressional race or a Senate race, would have made the difference. It certainly did in a couple of gubernatorial races across the country. Back in 2018 or 2016, it's really a reflection of the fact that this is about an internal fight within the House of Representatives itself, and members see his support as something interesting, but not necessarily something that's going to change their vote. And that's definitely a change from the past.
What are the broader implications of this continued delay?
So procedurally, this is the first and only thing that the House of Representatives can do right now. Something that's very important here in the House is the committee structure that actually helps with legislation being drafted and getting moved to the floor. Those committees can't be formed, their leadership can't be set, their rosters can't be set until the House elects a Speaker and then votes on that rules package. But the House really can't do any other business. It can't take up legislation coming from the Senate. They can't rename a post office right now. So it really has brought the legislative branch to a standstill. And until it's resolved, there are only two options for the House: either adjourn while they have discussions about who to elect for Speaker, or continue to go through these ballots and until a Speaker is chosen.
Yeah, and that could take who knows how long at this rate. As you mentioned, it's been very chaotic. Putting that all aside, what will be the priorities for this Congress once a Speaker is sorted?
I know that a big priority that Kevin McCarthy has pushed, and a lot of the Conservatives have supported as well to varying degrees, is oversight of the Biden administration. Without a Republican majority in the Senate, they won't be able to truly move conservative legislation or significantly cut spending, but they will be able to use the oversight powers of the House and subpoena power of the House to force administration officials to come before Congress and explain unpopular decisions, justify their spending, dig into things like Hunter Biden's international work or the Biden administration's handling of the withdrawal from Afghanistan. So I think oversight work broadly will be a very important priority for any Republican speaker elected in this Congress.
There's no doubt it's been a fascinating few days and it keeps going. Ms Doyle, great to speak with you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.